Welcome to the last film companion panel of this festival. This conversation is about the box office. And I read something very interesting this morning. I opened the papers, and there's a Serbian filmmaker, Goran Paskiewicz, who's also in the India Gold jury, who said Bollywood is run by accountants. That was the headline. And while I don't fully agree with that, I have watched with great concern this conversation about the 100 crore club getting louder and louder and louder in the last 5 years. It's, for me as a film lover and a film critic, somewhat disturbing. You know, movies are of course an art and as much a business, but I think our obsession with numbers has become a little unhealthy, and it's especially interesting because our numbers are in fact not exact. So we're all obsessing about 100 crores when no one in fact knows who exactly has made those 100 crores. So this conversation is going to look at the numbers and how numbers impact on the artistic process. And my partner in crime, Smriti Kiran, who heads Film Companion, is going to do it. So take it away.
What is the role of credible numbers in the process of filmmaking?
There are so many stakeholders on each film. There's a filmmaker, there's an actor, there's a studio, there's a producer, and everyone's, fates are sort of tied together on this one movie. And of course, it becomes really important then to know, what the film has performed. Unfortunately, in India at this point, we don't really have that one central repository of, available data which tells you what's happening everywhere. Though I do think we have a very clued in industry where producers, directors, actors, everyone's just so on the roll on what's the film done today and what's it done, is the show in PVR full today, or is, what's happening in Delhi today, or what's happening in NCR. But
and
I think
beyond actually,
yeah.
the smaller
Absolutely, and much
towns,
more,
that
absolutely.
is more important. We can still get these numbers here.
Right.
But India is such a vast country that I think that's what suffers in our country is the single screen theatres, the age-old theory of, वहाँ पे 100% चल रही है या 90% चल रही है. Now you need actual tangible numbers that you can understand what kind of films do well where, because it's a very vast market. A lot of the Indian diaspora deals in very different ways with cinema. They're encouraging towards new kind of cinema, but they still are quintessential Hindi film goers in that sense. So you need to understand how the audience is evolving. Also, numbers give you an insight into sensibilities of an audience evolving. I think if an Iron Man 3 in dub does well, and an Ashiki 2 releases and also does well in the same week, it gives you an understanding that the people are willing to go to the theatre. You need to understand who goes for what kind of cinema. That gives you a better sense.
But Arjun, the thing is that we don't have that currency. That kind of credible box office data is used abroad by studios,
Arturo has to now tell us
I mean, hopefully Rentrak is going to
currency.
bail us out and solve that problem. But why haven't we been able to crack this till now?
For me as an actor, and forget being a consumer for a second, as an actor, जब film का मुझे business पता लगता है, मुझे picture की औकात पता लगती है. Pretty much that is what it is. A film's business is equivalent to, that's the honest and pure worth of a film. That means it's been loved or liked or enjoyed or viewed by so many number of people. Beyond that, the number that it does, say 100 or 92 or a 7 or a 600 does not make me understand how much people have enjoyed the film. That's when you meet people. So it's just a number to know that these many people have seen the film and these many people are inclined towards going to the theatre more often. For me as an actor, it's just understanding that much. Now, why it's not happened?
But isn't it concerning that our barometer for a good film has become box office numbers?
That's not true. That's unfortunate if we start feeling that way. That's a perception, and that's created by certain people.
But that's the loudest perception these days. One of the dailies reported and divided the entire industry up into clubs which are 200 crore, 300 crore. And I feel that because there's so much noise around it, people's creative choices are also getting affected by it.
See, you have to understand the people that are writing these dailies are they're really bad. They're bad writers. They have no sense of cinema. They don't know how to cover a film. They don't know what to write. So this is like easy to do. This is like gossipy. This is like creating competition. This is like, this is easy to do. Because if they have to, if they have to write an in-depth study on any film, they can't. They can't string a sentence. So the quality of writing is pathetic to start with. So then if you're seeing them and then you're reacting to them and what they're saying, they're going to write rubbish because they can't write sense. So it's as simple as that. Whereas with certain films, Yeah, the media covers it and says this movie made that much, that movie. There are a lot of films where the filmmakers themselves are saying how much money they've made.
Well, that's
which,
what-
because they really don't have anything else to say about the film.
But you know, in our country,
It's like,
your
we made 200
post-release...
crores, what
Yeah.
else is there to say about this movie?
But most of the movies, Zoya, the post-release strategy is numbers. Everybody is taking out ads and
No,
projecting
I'm
numbers.
sorry. There are lots of films that don't take out ads. Lots of films that don't. I mean, like, we make what in Bombay, what, like 300?
200, around 200.
200
yeah.
odd.
Yeah.
There are not 200 ads coming out. No. You know what I mean? Even out of them, say 100 do well. Everybody doesn't put their figures out. And films that are kind of appreciated will not do that. Then the media will write about how much they made. You know, like a movie like Barfi, which really blew people's mind in the sense of no one expected it to do the kind of money it did. The producer didn't put out an ad saying, I've made so much money. He didn't need to. You know, and when there's nothing else to say, you'll be like, I made 200 crores. So at least I made 200 crores.
At least I've
I mean,
done
a simple example,
You know?
because she's sitting here is her last film doesn't have to be quantified by the amount it did. It goes way beyond that because the kind of movie it was, it affected people's lives. It touched them. Today, you can watch it again. You watch it on TV again. People think about that film as a benchmark in terms of how cinema is progressing. So that is what we all strive towards on a very big level. But there is an audience that enjoys a Rowdy
that's
Rathore,
true.
and there's nothing wrong with that.
Of course.
But you don't have to discuss the numbers beyond a point. Ki Rowdy Rathore ne itna, obviously, because that film is way more accepted in a mass section. So it has a bigger reach, and eventually films like Zindagi will break the barrier, Barfi will break that barrier. Rang De Basanti started that, so they'll keep breaking barriers, but you cannot always quantify. Does that mean that Rowdy Rathore is a better film than Zindagi? Maybe for some audience members it is, maybe for some it's not. It's subjective, it's individual, it's how you've grown up with cinema, what you take back from a film. Numbers do not dictate to an audience that this is a good film or a bad film. It's just something that we have started harping on, like she said, because it's written about. Because it's speculative, it's easy to compare actors on numbers. It's unfair. You cannot compare two new actors like Siddharth and me because we've done villain in 2 states. The numbers are similar. That does not mean you can compare us. The films are like that. You're not in every film, even in Hollywood, they don't cross their last film's numbers as heroes.
Like, I mean, there are so many trends in cinema, that are happening, that are coming. I mean, you don't read anything interesting on like 6-packs. I mean, I want one writer to write an article about every actor taking their clothes off. I don't get it. But nobody will write. In fact, they're comparing he's a 8 and he's a 10.
Which is
like,
true.
This is the level. As opposed to why are men falling over themselves to objectify themselves? Like, what's going on? Who are they catering to? Because to me, they're catering to the male audience. Because the women aren't interested. So, who are they catering to? But nobody writes. It's just comparison. So, it's like whether it's 6-packs, whether it's whose film, whether it's who's looking better in what clothes, and who made more money. It's the same level. You can't take it seriously.
I mean, there can't be a sophisticated barometer unless until you actually can compare specific data, which is what we don't have. So, Amrita, in an environment like this where you don't have this data to go by, how does a studio that actually bases its decisions on research operate?
I mean, for some of us, since we have big teams that are sort of nationwide, and there are a few companies that do, we get our data, because Arturo hasn't yet launched in India in like a very big way.
That's all he's hearing.
Yeah, that's all. We're just complaining. This is all going to be complaining to you. But the good thing is that we do manage to get data on our films, and we all, sort of exchange information and things like that. But like you said, there's no central space. But what really lacks is, for example, when we're releasing a film like a Zindagi or a 2 states outside the country, it becomes so easy for us to sort of plan the release. Because in North America, in Canada, in UK, in Australia, in Pakistan, who wants to watch those movies? And it's so much more easier for us. So our job becomes a little tougher because you have no central situation that tells you here's what's going to happen. So a lot is based on a gut, and you're sort of preempting that I think this film will do this much business. So
I think we should bring him in since he's the savior here and we're all looking at him. Arturo, what's your sense of the Indian market? What do you think are the challenges ahead?
Huge challenges. And that means also a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And a lot of value to create. And this conversation I've heard before in terms of should a movie be rated by the box office or by its quality. There's different things, and they're not into a fight. A movie can be very, very good and have huge box office, and the other way around. There are 2 different concepts. One is perception and one is a reality. Perception is individual and a reality is something that we have in common. Data is the basis to define reality. as simple as that. And India has a huge industry that is not yet defined. I mean, we don't know where we are. We know there's something important here, but we don't know how it looks like. We know individually how it looks like, but not as a group. And that's a huge thing that we're missing. And not just for here, for India, but to overwhelm the world. Our goal here would be to put knowledge or insights into this amount of data that we're trying to bring. And that will make everyone's lives much easier.
But tell me, Zoya, you said in an interview that the audience didn't understand your first film. Did it have any kind of impact on the writing of your second film, which was hugely successful? Do you think that what happens to a movie at the box office, somewhere, even subconsciously, even if you're not thinking about it, consciously affects the way you create the second thing that you're doing?
Yes, it does. More than understand it, I don't think people watched it. I don't think people went in and watched it. Like, I think a lot of people saw it on television and a lot of people saw it pirated for some reason. But you definitely do think about what you're going to do next. Films give you different things, you know. I mean, if you have a film that is appreciated and makes a lot of money, you've struck gold. You know, if you have a film that just makes a lot of money, you're safe. If you have a film that doesn't make any money but people loved it, and it gave you appreciation and awards and actors want to work with you, you're safe. If you make a bad film that makes no money, you go home. You're done. It's as simple as that. So somewhere, I think because it was my first film, I mean, people, everyone that liked it, saw it, that really liked it. I got best debut, best this. Actors called me and said wanted to work with. You know what I mean? There was a lot of, and the media was really good to the film. The press was really good to the film, and they were really like, they kept writing about it. They liked it, so they wrote about it. So I got a lot out of the film, and I think because it was my first film, it didn't affect me as much. You know, I think now if a film doesn't make any money at the box office, it would affect me much more, honestly. But as in terms of my second film, it's very funny, but it started off as being a small film with 3 boys in a car.
Shot in Spain.
Yeah. I thought it would just be a really indie movie, but it didn't.
It turned out to be a Hindi movie eventually.
How did it
Which
evolve
had song,
into this big
dance and a
film?
bit of lip sync also by the
Yeah,
end.
because I started to do the sports thing, and then you're like, okay, so now I'm going to move to Spain. Okay, so now I need money. Okay, so now I therefore need actors. Okay, then I need songs. And yes, things change. And I mean, I can say whatever, and I want to make the films I want to make, but before my movies are coming out, I'm a full-on capitalist. I wanted to make money, hardcore. It happens, you know. So yeah, there are choices you make, the kind of casting you do, the music. I mean, songs is of course one thing, but even the usage of background score changes.
So there are times that you
course.
take a creative call saying
Yeah.
that, okay, fine, maybe this might work better,
Yeah.
but
You
this
have to
could
have
get me more
background
numbers.
because the audience doesn't know how to feel.
I mean, do you think you're dumbing it down to a certain extent?
Yes, you are.
I don't think it's about dumbing it down alone. It's about you cater to your audience. You cannot be so indulgent beyond the point that you don't keep in mind that they like to be entertained a certain way.
No. See, different cultures go to the cinema for different reasons.
Correct.
And our
We have to find the right balance in a way with our
within
sensibility.
India, there are many Indians. and you have
Which
to
is
be-
why we need information to understand.
Yeah.
You know that I mean, like for me, our Finding Fanny was purely out of to push the boundaries. But the film released with 700 prints in Hindi. It's a film shot in English, acted in English, and the sensibilities
Exactly.
with that language. It will not work in Hindi. But they had no choice because the theatre owners beyond the point said, "यार हमें पता नहीं चलेगी या नहीं English में, आप हिंदी dub करके भेज दो." The film was never. It was supposed to be the opposite. It was supposed to have 100 of few Hindi for very small section of connoisseurs of Hindi cinema who don't like to watch English film.
But you can't say that no matter what it is, for a certain... It's not about whether songs are in or not. I love songs. I love shooting them. I love them. But there is a certain thing you do with a particular story so it becomes more palatable.
Correct.
You know, and a lot of the time that is dumbing it down. You are
Well,
very
you
specifically
have to
saying
cater to
audience
the lowest
won't get
common
it.
denominator
Yeah.
as well, which
You
is
know, you're
unfair.
like, they
You
won't
cannot
get it.
You
You
cannot
know?
not keep them in.
I wanna
If
know
we
one
don't- if
thing.
we have more information about what the taste palette is, we'll obviously hone ourselves and condition ourselves and not go out and promote a film wrongly, not release it wrongly, try and pitch it to the correct audience. Don't release it in certain
And
areas.
be more true to the film in that
I
sense.
mean,
and
you don't need to release it in certain areas today if you don't feel the
Totally.
need. You're saving that cost.
Yeah.
You're not publicizing the film there. You invest that money, release it in 4 better
Yeah.
theatres and places where you know the sensibility is correct for the film.
Totally.
What is right now, which I really don't know and I should know, is the system of auditing the box office right now, and how is Rentrak different?
So I guess what happens now is that you have your team all over the country, and they'll sort of get your numbers from each theatre, from
Who's
each
your
circuit.
team? Your personal
A
team?
company will have,
A company.
a given company. So a studio will have a team. A
Okay.
producer will probably have his, a solo producer will probably have his, contacts, his sub-distributors. So there may be some pilferage when it's not your own system. When it's your own system, then it's fairly transparent. But how this really helps is that online in the night, the minute that the film sort of releases, all your admissions get fed into the system. So it's pretty cool. And Arturo, please add
Arturo,
in.
why
Yes.
don't you?
Basically, we collect information from every single exhibitor out there. We're in 44 markets right now, including the most important ones, except for India, for now. And we track information in real time, so that distributors, exhibitors, producers, they know real time on their phones how their movies are performing. But not just their movies, their competitors, which is even more important.
Yeah.
Because you'll release a movie every year or so, or every 2 years, but you want to learn from
The trend.
what
Yeah.
the industry is doing
Yep.
to copy what they're doing well and to avoid what they're doing wrong. And if we see evolution as a trial and error process, the ability to have more information makes you much more efficient when you need to take decisions. So we give that information in real time. For right now, we do 100,000 screens per day, real time, which is a lot. And our clients pull 64,000 reports per day. That's 1 per second, almost 1 per second. Mathematically, when you have so vast number of individual inputs of information, you can know if one theater or one figure is wrong.
Those of
It's
your
a very interesting thing. We put out this. I know it's not for everybody. I'm a producer, son, so I know certain aspects. Is our distributor shares are very different than across the world. Because our single screens actually are fixed on hire.
Yep.
We don't have to give them 50% for single screens. So that's why when a film like Rowdy does well, the producer makes more money. Because they actually get 80% of the
And
first
the
week share.
tax is different in
The
every
tax
state.
is different. So there are so many things. So जब हम बोलते हैं ना पिक्चर ने 150 करोड़ किया है,
Exactly.
उसमें actually producer के हाथ में half आता है.
Yeah,
But
because
it's
we don't
60,
talk about
65.
return on
We don't talk
investment.
about return on the
Yeah.
investment.
And that
We
actually I
talk
wish
about-
people spoke
Yeah.
about, because
Which
you
is what actually quantifies the film as a success or a failure.
True.
If you're making a film for 150 crores and it does 150 gross,
not good.
that's not an achievement. That's the
Yeah.
bare minimum. That is your starting point. It's actually a failure at that level. And you cannot include satellite as your recovery.
Exactly.
People now started compromising the
Music
success of a
rights.
film by putting in music. Eventually, your film should be known by the theatrical success. Right now, what happens is, हमारी picture ने gross worldwide 100 देते हैं, और फिर उसके
उसमें
बाद हम
tax
थोड़ा सा
वगैरह,
nobody
there are all those
realizes
things
there's
added
so
in.
much more than so everybody thinks the highest grossing film is the biggest hit. No, you have to also understand the money spent to make it, the recovery that you made, and the shares are very different. Every theater actually has a different set of shares that you can do deals as distributors with each theater. It's abroad. I think it's a bit more universal. In India, each distributor can come and
It can be
discuss the share
customized.
with you.
Yeah.
I think Rajasthan didn't have tax. They've re-added tax
Yeah.
after Kick. Punjab has no tax. So therefore, your film doing well in the north allows you to make a lot more money as a producer directly. There is no entertainment tax.
There's different taxes.
Different taxes in different states.
different
So
and different
10
taxes for
here.
multiplexes, for single screens. Some multiplexes have tax holidays,
Yeah.
but you get charged that tax. So there are all these.
That's
you
why
know,
this fight for
situations.
being tax-free for a
Yeah.
film actually benefits
Is-
in making the film a bigger success for the
Yeah.
producer.
I think if you look at the profitable films for the last 2 years, 3 years, they're always the films which probably don't have the A-listers in them, which are the top end, talent.
Because they're
it's
not
the
carrying
younger
that burden.
stars. It's the younger stars who are like becoming bigger by the day, by the
That's
year.
the merit
because-
of the film that takes
Yeah.
you through.
No, and I
eventually.
think that's fabulous. I think that's really what is the result of a film, right? It's your profitability. It's not
Exactly.
really just the
It's not
absolute
really
number.
just the numbers, it's
because it's
just-
your cost that you need to take into account, your marketing budget, your distribution budget, and so on and so forth. So
Like I understand what my value as an actor that I bring. So your price changes when you know that your film's recoveries are so much. You don't live in you don't live in this dream. You know, you need to have facts in front of you so the industry can be streamlined. Even as actors, we live in delusion sometimes. We think our film is doing so well here, so well there. I know if I reach bloody UP, Bihar, they won't even recognize me maybe right now. Yeah, I've not seeped into that market. I've not done those kind of films. You need to know your true worth. So if I'm asking for a certain amount of money as an actor, I deserve it because I've put in a lot of hard work. But you need to know, you cannot just open your mouth and ask for something. A producer might be desperate to make a film, they'll overpay you. You burden the film turns out to not do well by 7 crores, for example, if an actor is charged. That is exactly the amount extra that the actors charge for no rhyme or reason. So today, if you know, you can say, okay, if my film does well to a certain degree, I'll then take a back end on it. Which is why Hollywood is a successful model in that sense. Actors are not above any film beyond a point. I mean, Matrix still happens, but then Keanu Reeves takes a back end if the film does well. So producers make money. Forrest Gump does well. Tom Hanks and the writers also get money for it. So we don't have those models here because we don't have the numbers to speak.
Exactly.
Which is very unfair, which I feel will put all of us on the same playing field when we set out to start a film and the numbers will be solidified.
On that note, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you really want to know more about Garibon Ka Wolverine, then you must subscribe to The Film Companion.